We're required to operate, and we're going to be required to operate in that same fashion.
That's right.
But we see it can be done. We see that we've been given a blueprint on how to operate that way.
Yeah.
And having that mind, that's, let this mind be in you, like the scripture say.
And a quick precept.
Go ahead.
Zechariah 9:9. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy king cometh unto thee. He is just and having salvation, lowly and riding upon an ass, and upon a coat foal of an ass. So that's the point of Yahushua. That's talking about Yahushua. He's the king and who brought salvation. But he came in lowly, man. Right. Had a lowly mindset, a coat and a foal of an ass. Mm-hmm. Had a lowly mindset, you know. Yeah, and they hated that, man. They hated that he was constantly was making himself equal. He was saying he was the son of the Most High, but he still didn't really boast himself in that. Mm-hmm. Even on the cross, he was being crucified. He was like, if you really the son of the Most High, do something, make something happen now to get you off of that. He still submitted himself all the way unto death.
Yep. That's facts, man. You know what I'm saying? That's the, man, you gotta, Yahweh Shah is the greatest example of us, for us to say, man, just get over your damn self, man. You ain't that, get over yourself.
Right.
When I say this, I know y'all brothers don't understand what I mean, but you're not that important. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like the scriptures say, the Lord can raise up stones, which we are those stones, right. Obviously. But the Lord don't need us. You know what I'm saying? We need him. So Yahweh Shai came down on the scene to strictly fulfill a mission. And it'd be like, you know what, I'm about my father's business, I'm gonna send back up. This is how you do it. This is the blueprint of how you do it. You know what I'm saying? You have something, Matthew?
This is Romans 8, verse 1 and 2. It says, there is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Mashiach Yahushua, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. For the law of the Spirit of life is Mashiach Yahushua, has made me free from the law of sin and death. So Yahushua was a pioneer. He came upon this flesh to walk perfectly, like I say, for us to basically be free of what's to come. All right, that destruction.
Yeah.
So he basically, like I say, is that pioneer.
Conquered death in the flesh, man.
Mm-hmm. And it's that word pioneer, as we read, it goes back to being a pawn. Mm. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, a pawn is the lowliest chess piece on the board.
Sacrifice.
It's a sacrifice. The pawns are the ones that go out there and set up plays for the rook and the bishop and the king and the queen to do things. You put the pawns out there to set up bigger moves.
Yep, they paved the way for the strategy. Mm-hmm. That's how you start off.
Man, that's heavy, man. I'm gonna continue reading this word reputation. It says, beginning in Philippians 2:5, which is where we started, Paul sets forth Hamashiach as the consummate example of the very kind of selflessness to which he exhorts believers in chapter 2, verse 3 and 4, in which he himself exemplifies in chapter 2, verse 17. So that's what that word makes himself of no reputation means. It means that pretty much you make yourself selfless. You take yourself out the equation.
Right.
Yahweh Shai could easily came down and boasted, I'm the man, I'm the one, you know what I'm saying? Which he did openly say, I'm the son of Yahweh, I'm him. But he didn't come down in the sense of whereas, the trumpets was blowing, you know what I'm saying? He got his disciples, which are lowly men, and like we say, Yahweh Shah was driving 2002, right. 2005 Toyota Corolla, you know what I'm saying? Just getting about life. You know what I'm saying? But, you got individuals and representatives that you see now that try to make a name for themselves on this side, which that's not what the Lord told us to do.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, work overtime and shit.
Yeah, exactly. Says that he was acquainted with grief, man. You can imagine, you know what I'm saying? Let's continue. You can continue on the Philippians 2.
Philippians 2:7. But made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant and was made in the likeness of men.
Right, he took upon him the form of a servant, right, a pawn, right, and was made in the likeness of men. He came in the flesh, right? He had parents, he had brothers, he had sisters, he was a little child, he grew up, you know what I'm saying? And people seen him grow up as a child, So I was like, man, this guy, Yahushua, man, ain't that Joseph and Mary's son?
Right.
We know his brothers and his sisters, man. Now you over here saying that he's the Messiah. We seen you grow up, bro. Like, what are you talking about?
What you on?
You know? So he came in the likeness of men. Go ahead.
Continuing on. Verse 8. And being found in the fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross.
Right. He humbled himself and became obedient unto death. Like Yariala said, you know, he to the point to whereas he gave up the ghost, said, Father, it's finished. What was finished? The mission. The mission was done at that point. He came to be the sacrificial lamb. It was done. Right? It says, even the death of the cross, right? Verse 9.
Verse 9. Wherefore Yahweh also hath highly exalted him, and given him a name which is above every name.
So with him doing that, him coming in the likeness of simple flesh, being fashioned as a man, humbled himself, made himself of no reputation. With him doing that and accomplishing the mission, what happened? He got exalted. See? And that's the goal, is to be exalted, not by men. We want to be exalted by Yahweh, by Shem Yahushua at the end of the day. We want to be those like that Ezra seen. These are they that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord. You know, these are the men that sighed and cried for the abominations done in their midst, that stood stiff, that endured it to the end. We want to be a part of that number, but in order to do that, we have to look at our pioneer, which is Yahushua, which made himself of no reputation, that pawned something, a lowly chess piece, you know, a piece of the lowest rank and value, a foot soldier. So that word pawn is a foot soldier. One going on foot, right? And then when you get that noun, it's something given or deposited as security. See that? And we already know what the deposit was his blood. What? He said that what? It said that we were redeemed, we were bought with a price, excuse me. You know, we were bought with a price. Okay? You had a precept? You had a precept?
Just to show that you know, the level of authority Yahushua has. Right? John 10 and 18. Right, it says what? No man taketh it from me, but I lay it. I'll start at 17. You know, I'm talking about him, you know, it's written in red. Therefore doth my Father love me, because I lay down my life, that I might take it again. That price. No man taketh it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. This commandment have I received of my Father. You know, so the Yahushua again, he's the first spirit ever created. Very, you know, there's no name above his name.
Right.
But for him to walk that path is the hugest example, you know, unto us.
Right.
And he received that from his Father, and we seek to receive, you know, a pat on the back, so to speak, from our Father, man, by standing stiffly for the name.
Yep. Because no man has ever said who hath matter of fact, let me get that real quick, just to land back off the point that you just made. I think it's in John 3. Let me see real quick. 1 second. I think the word ascended is. This is the book of John. Okay, yeah. This is the book of John, chapter 3, verse 13. Alright, and it says, and no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man which is in heaven. See that? So Yahushua, he it says, and no man hath ascended up to heaven, which Yahushua did, but he, talking about Yahushua, that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man which is in heaven. So he was in a heavenly state and came down and ascended back up. He was in a heavenly state, came down, showed us what to do, and went back. You know what I'm saying? And now we wait for him. And now we wait for him to come back to deliver us, and you know, and say, "Thou faithful servant."
Yeah, that's power.
You know. Yeah, some
Follow the land with us wherever we go.
right.
Follow the food.
Right. Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, you had mentioned like you said, the Lord, he basically walked a perfect walk, then he laid his life down humbly and then it showed he was worthy, you know. He was exalted. So I wanted to kind of land back on that. Second Exodus 2, start at verse 42.
It says, I started verse 43, it says, and in the midst of them there was a young man of a high stature, taller than all the rest, and upon every one of their heads he set a crown, and was more exalted, which I marveled greatly. And just kind of land back, that the one that was taller, who was that? Yahweh Shai. And he was given those crowns. So he was worthy. Going back to him being that son that laid his life down, being a sacrificial lamb, and he received that reward. And through his blood, he basically, like you say, it says in John, they were dying and dying of mine. He was given a leg fear. And those are the ones that he's giving us crown upon. But like I said, he was that pioneer, the first one that was taller than the rest.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he was taller than the rest. Like you said, he was the one that paved the way. You know what I'm saying? He paved the way for us, man.
Can I get one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just kind of the ordering of it. Yahweh Shai being the trailblazer or the pioneer. This is 1 Corinthians 15 and 22. It says, for as in Adam all died, even so in Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai shall all be made alive. Here's the point, verse 23.
If I just may add on to your point real quick, Adam was the pioneer that brought death.
Yeah. Pioneer.
Yahweh Shai is the pioneer that brought life.
That's right.
Because Adam is Yahweh Shai.
Yep.
That was all set up by Yahweh from the beginning.
Man.
That's right.
That's right. And even with Solomon, when he transgressed and went off, that caused the whole nation to collapse. So that was the second part that happened within that. Man. He always played a role, even with Jacob and Esau's role in the planet Earth in the end. Isaac gave the blessing to both of those sons.
That's right.
Who is Yahweh Shai.
Yep. Beautiful.
But this just further reiterating how he's the pioneer. Verse 23. It says, but every man in his own order.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, the first fruits.
The first, yes. Yep. That's right.
That's why he's the only begotten son. That's why he's also the first of many brethren. It says, but every man in his own order, Hamashiach, the first fruits, afterward they that are of Hamashiach at his coming, meaning the elect.
Man.
Right.
Yep.
Those that follow the Lamb with the sword.
Those that are going to be glorified to stand so stiffly, like one of y'all just quoted.
That's right. That's right. Can we get Acts the 5th chapter?
It's a package deal, if I could just say, like, for going through the sufferings that Yahweh Shai first gave example, we also going to take part in the glory too.
Yeah.
That's why you can't have one without the other. To get the glory, Jake just want to go straight to the glory. Nah, you got to be a servant. You got to have
humility.
Go from wickedness to being.
You know?
Yeah.
You got to go
You
through
gotta go
some
through
shit.
the process. Man.
Go through the process.
Yahweh Shai came in the flesh and he went through the whole process. It wasn't like Yahweh Shai came down and was born 33 years old.
Right.
Because with himself, he was compacting the blood for 9-10 months. He came down out the sperm into the stomach, birth, born. Yeah.
Child grew up. You know what I'm saying? Fell and busted his head a couple times, running probably, playing.
Damn.
Scraped his elbow.
Thumped his toe.
You know what I'm saying? Caught a cold probably.
Yeah, he was in the flesh.
Yeah, he was in the
His
flesh.
spot, yeah.
It says when you get that word acquainted with grief, it says that he was a man.
Disease.
He was diseased. He was getting ailments and stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know what I'm saying? Just like us. But he showed us like, look, this is being in this state, being in this flesh. This is what you do.
This is what
You know?
So you into?
You got Acts.
Yeah, 5.
Whoever got it.
You got
Whoever it. Acts. You can start at verse 29 and we'll read down to verse 31.
This is Acts 5 and 29. It says, then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men. The God of our fathers raised up Yahweh Shai, whom ye slew and hanged on a tree.
Right.
It says, him hath the Most High exalted with his right hand to be a prince and a savior.
To be a prince and a savior. Now, when you get this word prince, the reason I wanted to get that is this word prince. That word prince there in the Greek is archegos, right? And when you get that definition of prince here, it says the chief leader or a prince, one that takes the lead in anything, right? It says, and thus affords an example, a predecessor in a matter. You see that? And what is a predecessor? You see, a predecessor is a person who held a job or office before the current person that's doing it. You see, like you got a predecessor, the predecessor of Alexander the Great was Philip of Macedon, or you know what I'm saying? Like they say, the predecessor and the successor. You know what I'm saying? So the predecessor is the one that held an office before somebody else that's currently in that spot. So we're in that spot now, but Yahweh Shai is the predecessor of it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Just like the Matrix. When
What's
he
that,
finally got to
31?
the architect.
No, I'm trying to go to
And
the
he broke down
index
the
of it.
people that was of the,
What was that?
the one before. So you grasp more quickly than your predecessors. You know, so it was
Man.
multiple individuals. You know.
And previous
I
before
never
too.
caught that in that movie. Wow.
So
Heavy. I never caught that in that movie.
Yeah, that's why I told him you got to select because we said we successfully destroyed Zion like 6 or 7 times already. So you're gonna do the same thing as the other ones that was the one did. You're gonna select 13 females, 7 males, and you're gonna repopulate. But Leo broke the mold. And he didn't follow that. So he was a pioneer in that as well.
Man, he changed the game.
Yeah, he changed the game.
47.
Man.
Y'all some big
Hold on.
dudes.
I might go back and watch that.
Look, I'm like, shit. I thought I knew the Matrix. Damn.
I never caught that part.
You said that in the Matrix?
That was a secret scene on the Animatrix.
Man.
The Matrix Reloaded.
God, it was reloaded. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Oh, see y'all, man. No.
Alternate ending part 3. It says, and thus offers an example, a predecessor in the matter. It says of Hamashiach, who in the preeminence of his faith far surpasses the examples of faith commemorated in Hebrews 11.
Where are you reading that?
I'm reading this in the Thayer's Greek lexicon
Can't be
for
in
the word prince. I read that again. It says, who in the preeminence of his faith far surpassed the examples of faith commemorated in Hebrews 11. Now we know the faith written. I mean, Hebrews 11 is the faith chapter.
Yep.
It talks about all our forefathers and all the great men that exuded faith and came out on the other side. But it says, who in the preeminence, meaning before, you know, an eminence. When you get that definition, it says a position of superiority, right?
That's right.
Of his faith. Think about that. He had faith in the heavens to lower himself, to understand and to do the mission, to be exalted again, while he was in a perfect state. That's why it says that he made himself, he emptied himself, right?
He
That's
came
also
down
why
from
you-
his estate. You got it. You got it. You got it.
That's also why, y'all probably brought it out already, but he's considered the firstborn of many brethren. Now, he is the only begotten son, which means the choice select. But through his sacrifice, he's been called the firstborn of many brethren, because like y'all going into, he's the first, the pioneer. So he had to pave the way and set the road for us to follow. That's why the scriptures also say, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Key point of the way. You know, so he literally directs our steps and we follow that.
He's the path. So once again, it says, who in the preeminence before, the superiority before of his faith, letting you know that he had faith before, right? Far surpassed the examples of faith commemorated in Hebrews 11. You see? He's the author and finisher of our faith.
Yeah.
I'm the beginning and the end. I'm the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. You know, he's the captain of our salvation. He's the head of it. Like, he showed us what to do. Right? So we can go back to we can finish off Acts 5.
I got something too.
Actually, go ahead.
Well, this is quite a bit of verses.
Okay.
It goes right into what you read.
Yeah, Yadakov, you can just finish. Actually, I got to pull it up right here. It says, him hath the Most High exalted with his right hand to be a prince and a savior, for to give repentance to Israel and forgiveness of sins. And you big head ass Christians can't get around that. Matthew Wisemere, Vocab Malone, all you wacky tacky stank ass Christians can't get past this.
Doodle Brown.
Yeah, Dr. Quaz Brown, Doodoo Brown. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, anyways, but that's a little sidebar, but you got it.
Con, this is Colossians chapter 1. And I'm going to start, the whole chapter goes in, but I just want to start at a good point. Start at verse 13. Going into Yahweh Shai, obviously. But it says, who hath delivered us from the power of darkness and has translated us into the kingdom of his dear Son. Talking about Yahweh translating it to a son, I'd rather say. Verse 14. In whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins. Who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. And just as a footnote, a lot of these so-called Christians that are out here like to point out the fact that he's called the invisible God. And they try to say he doesn't have an image, he don't have a color, it doesn't matter because he's the invisible God. But ultimately all that's going into is he is living proof of the existence of the Father. Right. Just as we are living proof of the existence of the Son. And it's our faith which is the driving force to show forth what we believe in, that he exists and so forth. you know, the invisible God.
Yep,
He's very visible.
That was
Yeah,
yeah.
faith is invisible. It says
Exactly.
Faith is the evidence of things. It's the evidence of things. It's the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of
That's
things
right.
that you can't see.
Right, right. And it also gives him his image when you read it in Revelation and Daniel.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? When you continue in verse 16, it says, "For by him were all things created," just like in Hebrews, "that are in heaven and that are in the earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities," which are going into the angelic forces, "or powers. All things were created by him and for him. And he is before all things." Now, if we're of the elect, we were created after Yahweh Shai, but it's going and he was created even before that. You know, really, pretty much when you read 16, if we're of the elect, we can be quantified within that group. You know, under Yahweh Shai, of course. It says, "And he is before all things." So he's before all of that. "And by him all things consist. And he is the head of the body." This is the point of verse 18. "He is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have preeminence." Just in that definition that you would have went into, which preeminence goes into being the chief, captain, or the head, or the prince.
That chief cornerstone.
Yep. He's the first.
Everything.
He's
The first of everything.
He's the beginning. He's in the beginning.
You said the beginning.
Yeah,
What you said?
I was gonna say.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It says that in all things he might have the preeminence.
Man, yep.
You know what I'm saying?
One more quick one, really quick to back that up. And it's in Colossians.
Yeah.
Is that cool? Is this...
No, but he laughed because of the beginning.
Oh, the beginning.
Nah, but go ahead.
This is Colossians chapter 2, verse 9. It says, "For in him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead bodily." So if we represent part of that Godhead, just know that he is in the fullness of that and in the front of that. Verse 10. "And ye are complete in him, which is the head of all principality and power."
Man.
So we're following that suit, but he's the head of all of that. That's the point.
And that, man, it's like that just puts so much, that just sheds more light on like Genesis 1. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? How Yahweh Shai prayed for the elect in John 17. He's like, "Glorify me with the glory that I had from the beginning." You know what I'm saying? And then he also prayed for the elect to be glorified alongside with him, because they were with him from the beginning. He said, thou they were, and thou gavest them unto me.
Mm-hmm.
So the elect were given to Yahweh Shai in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? Like Yahweh Shai created them, and then Yahweh gave the elect unto Yahweh Shai as an inheritance.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like that's, man, this truth, man.
It's crazy.
It goes deep. You know what I'm saying? It goes very, very deep. Very, very deep. Right? So let's get Revelations 1 and 5.
Got it.
Revelation chapter 1, starting verse 5.
You start at verse 4, just because it kind of just like a semicolon at the top of that one too.
Okay. Revelation chapter 1, verse 4. "John, to the 7 churches which are in Asia, grace be unto you and peace from him which is, and which was, and which is to come."
From him which is, he's presently in the heavens right now, and which was, he was already in that position in the beginning, and which is to come.
Yep, yep.
Right? Go ahead.
"And from the 7 spirits which are before his throne,
The Rakakodash, the angels. You guys go ahead.
and from Yahweh Shai, who is the faithful witness, and the first begotten of the
The
dead."
first begotten, who was the faithful witness, and the first begotten of the dead. Because what? At the end of the day, we come in that same stead too. You know, with us, we were in a dead state, and what happened through the Holy Spirit being poured out upon us, we have been risen from the dead as well.
Yep.
You know, I want to get that word first begotten real quick.
You got it.
No, I was trying to pull it up.
Oh, okay. No, I'm sorry.
Hold
That
on.
word first
You got it.
begotten is prototakas, like a
Prototakas.
prototype. You see? So that word says the first of the dead who was raised to life in Colossians 1 and 18, also in Revelation 1 and 5, right? Who was the Son of the Most High long before those who by his agency and merits are exalted to the nature and dignity of sons of God.
Yep.
Going into the elect. It says, let's read that again. Who was the Son of God, the Son of Yahweh, long before those who by his agency and merits are exalted to the nature and dignity of sons of the Most High, with the added suggestion of the supreme rank by which he excels these other sons. Who are those other sons talking about? The
elect.
144,000, the elect.
Yeah, bro, check this out. In the root word, it's protos. And it's 441.
Oh, wow.
Then it says the first one, then it says first in rank.
First in rank.
Is it? Yeah, 144 at the top of that.
Yeah,
The root word of it, first in rank.
Yeah.
Hey, that's why in Revelation, if I may, it goes into how he had a name written that no man knew.
Right.
That goes into that rank. You know what I'm saying? No man has that rank but Yahweh Shai. The elect's gonna have similar rank, but not that same exact rank.
Right.
That name.
Well, we read it in
That's in John too. Yo.
It says every man in his own order. You know. Look, you can finish that up first, and then we'll get that.
Like prototype 2, I'm thinking about. Like, prototype is usually the first or something before they put a whole another line of that thing that came very first. You know,
Like the Model T was a prototype of cars, and now you got Ford.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? All these,
Right.
you know. What you got?
Again, Revelation 1 and 5. And from Yahushua, who is the faithful witness, and the first begotten of the dead, and the prince of the kings of the earth, unto him that loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood, and have made us kings and priests unto the Most High and his Father.
Right, he did. So what he did with him being, it said he was the prince of the kings of the earth. So that's like that. That's letting you know you got kings and rulerships on the earth. Yahweh Shai is above that. He's the prince of the kings of the earth, being right directly underneath Yahweh himself. You see what I'm saying? And through his blood, we have that access to be joint rulers with him. You know. Let's see. You at verse 6 right now? Okay, you got it. Oh yeah, you can just finish off verse 6 and that's it.
To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen or Tawak.
Right, to him be glory and dominion forever and ever. See that? Because what? Through what the Lord promised them, and when you read in Psalm 2, ask of me and I shall give you the heathen for thine inheritance. You see, so that with that inheritance is going to come rulership, dominion, you know, lands, riches. But he's going to get the bulk of it. He's going to get the choice of it. And he's going to share the choice of it with his brothers. You know? You have something you want?
Oh yeah, I had this for you, just to read real quick. This is 1 Corinthians 15, I start at 20. He says, but now is the Mashiach risen from the dead and become the first fruits of them that slept. From since by man came death, by man also came also the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, even so in the Mashiach shall all be made alive. You know what I mean? So just going into the fact that he was the firstborn of the dead earlier, and that, you know, nobody, he had that high rank, that name that no man knew, that nobody could fit that mold. Nobody could play that position. You know what I mean? So just to double down on that point that was made earlier.
Yeah, because, you know, think about it in the sense of Adam. You know what I'm saying? Adam transgressed, he sinned. What's sin? Sin is transgression of the law, right? Adam sinned, and death reigned from Adam to Moses. So we sinned. Even though Adam sinned, we sinned in Adam. Which indeed caused us what? Death to reign.
Yep.
It says, like, what makes me think of that example with Abraham, it says that Levi paid tithes and Melchizedek and Abraham. Levi physically didn't pay tithes, but he did it through Abraham. So through Adam being Yahushua, death was pretty much pushed in the earth. You see, because we came from him. So it reigned in us. And so through Yahushua, now we have that access of life. Through him.
And I read that just to show how he's the pioneer, regardless of whether it be good or bad.
Yeah. He was like, he's already set forth. He was set forth to come. He was set forth to do that from the beginning. Think about that. Being Adam and then already understanding and knowing the end game from the beginning. Like, he was going to do that and then switch it. He was going to just do a complete 180. Right? He was going to be here and do a 180 turn, and now it's going to be life. It was first death, now it's life. He's the Alpha and the Omega.
Perfect balance.
You know? Let's grab Hebrews 12. Let's get a few more.
Hebrews 12, verse 1. It says, wherefore seeing we are also compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which do so easily beset us, and let us run with patience let us run with patience the race that is set before us.
Right, we got to run the race with patience. Okay, the scripture says, "Here is the faith and the patience here is the patience and the faith of the saints." And we understand that we're in a race. And you can't, we don't burn ourselves out. You know what I'm saying? We gotta make sure that we run not as one that beats the air. We fight as not as one that beats the air, but we go at a pace. We gotta make sure that we follow in the lane. We can't try to go in front of them. You know what I'm saying? And you can't get left behind. You gotta make sure we just keep the pace. It's just like it makes me think about how you gotta you got the like a bird that flies, and you got like he's in the front, you know what I'm saying? And he pretty much keeps the speed of everything else, of all the rest of the birds that fly behind. Like he keeps the pace, you know what I'm saying? And then when he gets tired, he goes to the back, you know what I'm saying? And then they rotate back to the front, So Yahweh Shai, he following him being the shepherd, we got to make sure that we keep up with that. We don't go in front of him. We don't try to usurp his authority, right? As you guys, particular individuals, try to do their own thing. The scripture say if you go any kind of way, you're like a thief and a robber.
I wanted to go ahead in my Bible a footnote that says perseverance. So I just Googled perseverance. We're running that be patient, run the race. To say perseverance is persistent in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving. And like you say, with Yahweh Shai being that that pioneer, he paves the way for us. Like I say in John 10, he's the way, he's the door. So we basically through him is that kingdom of heaven, or that road is open for us.
That's right. Yep, the access has been open. Let's get verse 2.
Verse 2, it says, looking unto Yahweh Shai, the author and finisher of our faith.
Right. It says, looking unto Yahweh Shai, the author, which that word author, when you get it in the Greek, is the same word for prince. Archegas, chief leader, the prince, one that takes the lead in anything and that affords an example. So he's the author and the finisher. Right? That word finisher is teleotes. All right? And that definition says a perfecter. So he's the perfecter. He's the author. He's the example of our faith, and he's the one that's going to perfect it when it's complete. Right. Like it says in what is that? 1 and 2 Peter 1. One of those two. It says when your faith is accomplished. Right. It says a perfecter, one who has in his own person raised faith to its perfection, and so set before us the highest example of faith. Bro, he perfected faith on the planet Earth. Like he perfected it to the point where death couldn't even hold him. Like he was risen from the dead.
He's the champion of it.
Yeah, like you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like his faith was on a whole other level that death couldn't even subdue him. So I read that again. It says, one who has in his own person raised faith to its perfection, and so set before us the highest example of faith. And it says the word occurs nowhere else. You see that? So when we look at Yahweh Shai as the author or the example and the finisher of our faith, the perfecter of our faith, through his faith, now we have that access and have that gift of faith through his faith. Right. See that? That's a true pioneer. That's somebody to look up to. You know what I'm saying? I got something for you. Yeah, go ahead. And then we'll go back to
Hebrews 2:9.
Man, actually hold that, because I had that written down. We actually can end off on that.
Okay, God.
Yeah, so let's go back to Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2.
Hebrews 12:2, looking unto Yahweh Shai, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of Yahweh.
Right, so for the joy that was set before him, right, being a seer, having vision, right, he endured the cross, understanding and knowing that he was the one that created the world, he created everybody in it, his own people put him to death, and he created it. Right. You know what I'm saying? He endured the cross because ultimately he understood the mission. Despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of the Most High. So with him enduring the cross, as a son he suffered obedience. Now he got exalted. And now he has a name higher than any name. And he gave us the example. He gave us the blueprint of how to do that. You know? Let's see. You have another point? Okay. We can actually end it off in Hebrews 2.
You can start at 9 or somewhere else.
Start up at verse, start at verse 5, then we read down.
Alright, okay. Hebrews chapter 2, starting at verse 5. For unto the angels hath he not put in subjection the world to come, whereof we speak.
Mm-hmm.
But one in a certain place testifies, saying, What is man that thou art mindful of him?
Mm-hmm.
Or the Son of Man that thou visitest him?
Right. What's it like? What is man that you mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you visit him, that you attend to him? Because when you read what the Apostle Paul is quoting, is Psalms 8. And when you read up in Psalms 8, it talks about, the sun, the moon, and the stars, and the glory of the heavens. He's like, here it is, you got these glorious celestial bodies that you made, and then you got man. So who is man that you just, that you just attend unto these, like unto man, like, but you got these glorious instruments in the sky that's sitting there, and they're in order, they're powerful,
Eternal.
You know what I'm saying? He's like, what is man that you mindful of man? You know what I'm saying? Like, we get these weak ass bodies,
They're mortals.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 7. Thou madest him a little lower than the angels.
Boom, thou madest him a little lower than the angels. So he came down in the flesh, whereas he went from his heavenly estate, whereas he's above the angels. And he made the Lord, he came down in the flesh and made him a little lower than the angels. Right? You got it.
Thou crownest him with glory and honor, and didst set him over the works of thy hands.
Right, all judgment was given unto Yahweh Shai. Said, and did it set him over the works of thy hands, because what Yahweh commanded, and Yahweh Shai, he did it in the beginning. See, Yahweh gave Yahweh Shai the blueprint, and he did everything else. And he did it with the elect. You got it.
Thou hast put all things in subjection under his feet.
Mm-hmm.
For in that he put all in subjection under him, he left nothing that is not put under him.
Mm-hmm.
But now we see not yet all things put under him.
Right, but now we see not yet all things put under him. And the main thing that's not put under him right now is death. He conquered death, but that's the last enemy that's going to be subject to Yahweh Shai, is death itself. You see, for the Israelites, I'll say, because you still going to have the heathen that are going to be still going off in the kingdom and stuff like that. But you still got these wicked kingdoms on the planet Earth ruling. That's why when Yahweh Shai returns, the scripture says he's going to have many crowns on his head.
Right. Hey, that's also in 1 Corinthians 15. That's why the Apostle Paul made mention going into how after this, death is swallowed. Now is the saying fulfilled, I'd rather say, death is swallowed up in victory. As you read that in Isaiah 25, so Yahweh Shai conquered it, but it ain't swallowed up yet. It's going to completely be fulfilled when Yahweh Shai's elect joins with him in the heavens.
The marriage.
That's the commencement of the new covenant.
Right.
What happened in those ships?
Yeah.
Faith is going to be perfected.
All peace on earth. Wars, people get obliterated and all that stuff. Everything is going to be peace, like 40 years of peace in Israel, right?
That's right.
Verse 9. But we see Yahweh Shai, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he, by the grace of the Most High, should taste death for every man.
Taste death for every man. So Yahweh Shai tasted of death. He shed his blood for every man of the nation of Israel. Okay? Beginning with the elect. So through the shedding of his blood, now we have that access to that immortality through his sacrifice. That's why that's why Yahweh Shai, man, he's the man. Like you can't talk about Yahweh Shai. You can't talk about him enough, man. Like he's
right.
The centerpiece of this gospel. He's the nucleus of the gospel. And Yahweh created what the nucleus is. Yahweh is the one that created the story before everything. You see, man, he's the one that set up. Look, by default, if you obey my son, you obey me.
That's why the Most High said, "Kiss his son, lest he be angry." Everything go through Yahweh Shai, bro.
That's right.
Yeah, he did everything.
Verse 10. For it became him for whom are all things, and by whom are all things, and bringing many sons unto glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through sufferings.
There it is, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through sufferings. And that word captain, once more, is archegos, which is the same word for prince, which is the same word for author, right? So it says to make the captain, he's the author of our salvation. He made it perfect through the sufferings that he went through. So if he's the author of our faith and he perfected it through sufferings, what more? How much more are we gonna have to suffer?
Exactly.
And Scripture says that the servant's not greater than the master. You know, so we're gonna have to suffer too. You know, Scriptures talk about that in what is it, 2 Timothy? It says, I forgot how it's worded. I think it's in 2 Timothy 2. We don't gotta get it. It's pretty much going to the point of how pretty much, you know, those that live godly shall suffer persecution or suffer affliction. That's what it says. You know, so we're gonna be afflicted. We're gonna be hated. We're not gonna be loved by everybody. We're gonna be looked at as the talk of the town. We're gonna be looked at as an enemy. We're gonna be lied on.
And Satan will fuck with you spiritually.
Because Yahushua felt all that through the flesh when he came from his heavenly state. He went through all that. They put thorns of crown on his head, bro. Like,
Yeah.
Acts tells you through much tribulation.
Yep. That was verse 10. Can you read down to verse? Can you read down to verse 12?
Verse 11.
For both he that sanctified and they who are sanctified are all of one.
Right. For he that sanctifieth, which is Yahweh Bashim Shai, they who are sanctified, the elect, are all of one. Letting you know it's going to be one body, it's going to be one doctrine, one truth, right? One body. Go ahead.
Right. For which cause he is not ashamed to call them brethren. For I saying, I will declare thy name unto my brethren. In the midst of the church will I sing praise unto thee.
Right. So he's going to declare his name unto his brothers. Those that were with him from the beginning. Those that are going to partake in the glory that he now has right now. He's going to share that with the Akim, with his brothers, man. You know, and that's the greatest, man, for somebody to have everything, you know, and to come down and do what he did, get exalted back to his heavenly estate, come back to earth, destroy the system, deliver his elect that's transgressed in sin, but even though from the beginning they were already made perfect,
right.
Establish the kingdom of heaven and share all that with his men, and share it
Forever.
That's right. And just share it, bro. Like, come on, man. Like, you can't. That's the pioneer of the game, man. Like that's why the lesson is taught. Yahweh Shai, our pioneer to look to, man.
Yep,
You know?
he's that example.
He's that example, and like I said, I never knew that word pioneer went back to being a pawn. The most significant piece on the chessboard that sets up other plays to win. You know, that shows you Yahweh Bashim Shai is the ultimate strategist, man. He's the ultimate chess player. You know? So
Yeah, and once that pawn endures all of its endeavors, it ends up being the most powerful piece on the chessboard.
which they make it a queen, of course, but
Yeah, right.
yeah, I know what you mean though, because once the pawn gets, like, when you play chess, for those that I don't know if brothers play, but once you have a pawn, if your pawn makes it to the other side of the chessboard, that if let's say your queen is, you use your queen gets knocked down, in which the queen, like Priest R says, the strongest piece. You know what I'm saying? Like the queen can move all directions, and do all this other kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Once that pawn makes it, if your queen gets taken and you have a pawn that makes it all the way to the other side of the board, you get your queen back.
Yep.
Complete power.
Mm-hmm.
Move about.
Yep.
Make it to the end.
Make it to the end, and you get glorified. You get glorified to the most powerful piece. Man, that's beautiful. I didn't even think about that, man. That's heavy. Wow.
And Yahweh Shah did it first. That's why he was pioneer.
Exactly.
Other side of the chessboard.
Yep.
Yeah.
Real.
And it ain't just one pawn. Like you can have multiple pawns.
There's hella pawns, yeah.
And then that pawn is still gonna look like a pawn, but it can move like a queen.
144,000 pounds.
Man. Yep.
Turn through the earth.
Yeah.
Moving around with the angels.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
So that's all that I had. I don't know if any other brothers had anything else.
I said something real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Romans 8, I read verses 16 and 17. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. And if children, then heirs, heirs of the Most High, and joint heirs with Yahushua, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together.
Perfect.
You can break it down now.
It pretty much speaks for itself. You know, so the suffering being joint heirs. You know, we suffer with Yahushua, follow that blueprint as he laid out, wouldn't have been glorified. That's what he's coming back to do: glorify his faithful servants and exalt them to be joint heirs and get a portion of what's been given to them by the Heavenly Father Yahweh.
That's right. That's right. You know, so with that, you know, any other brothers have anything else?
No, that was it.
Alright, so with that, you know, Lord willing, this class was edifying. We want to give all praise, honor, and glory to
Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Kakodash.
Want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that's still teaching this truth, and much peace, love, and salutation to the elect. Shalom.
Shalom.